We're gonna spread happiness. We're gonna spread freedom. Obama's gonna change it. Obama's gonna lead 'em. We're gonna change it and rearrange it. We're gonna change the world.
VCY America presents Crosstalk, a nationwide call-in program discussing issues that have an effect on our families, our communities, our churches, our nation, and our world. Crosstalk, an opportunity for you to voice your concerns for biblical principles. And now live by satellite and around the world on the internet at vcyamerica.org. Here is today's Crosstalk.
Well, welcome to another week of Crosstalk here on VCY America. My name is Jim Schneider, and we are in the throes of a presidential election, and there is so much media attention being given to, well, the major four candidates right now on the Democratic side, Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. On the Republican side, John McCain and Mike Huckabee. And yes, there are others. Ralph Nader, of course, made news over the weekend. Yes, he is throwing his hat into the ring once again to run for president. And as we are wondering, where are the positions? What are the positions? Where are the stances that are made by candidates? And not just what the public media is spotlighting, but what is going on behind the scenes as well. And for one particular individual, there is a Messiah-like fervor. Matter of fact, there's a headline today in WorldNetDaily, "Is Obama the Messiah?" And we, of course, hear of those who are going in these fainting spells as he comes to speak and wondering as what is all this fervor. But there's a lot of things, though one becomes the media's darling, that the media really doesn't get into some of the background on some very, very important things. And here to talk about that with us today is Aaron Klein. Aaron is a Jerusalem correspondent for WorldNetDaily.com. He is author of the book Schmoozing with Terrorists. He has published the first today in a 5-part series on Barack Obama, the first of which is running on, as we mentioned, today's WorldNet Daily. And some very, very shocking information. First of all, Aaron, we'd like to welcome you back here to Crosstalk.
Thank you for having me.
You're speaking to us today. You just left Jerusalem a bit ago. You're in Israel right now. And in this article that you published today on WorldNet Daily, you allege that Barack Obama has worked with terrorists. And I'm here to say, Aaron, that's quite an allegation. What background, what proof do you have to make such an allegation?
Yeah, I wrote a book called Schmoozing with Terrorists. Turns out that Barack Obama has done some schmoozing with terrorists of his own and actually has outright worked with them, as you just pointed out. Now, what I'm talking about here, and this is very important, Barack Obama served on the board of a nonprofit organization in Chicago called the Woods Fund, and he was a paid director. He was involved very much with the ins and outs of this group, and he served alongside a guy named William C. Ayers, who is a professor at the University of Illinois at Chicago. Well, William C. Ayers is also known as Bill Ayers, who was one of the leaders of the Weathermen terrorist organization that was seeking the downfall, the destruction of the United States government, and that bombed American government buildings in the 1970s, including the U.S. Capitol building, the New York police headquarters, even the Pentagon. This is Bill Ayers. He has confessed. He's admitted. He's given interviews as late as a few months ago, but just a September 11th interview with the New York Times, where he boasts about his involvement with bombing the Pentagon and other buildings. He said to the New York Times that we didn't do enough in those days, in the 1970s. The only reason he's not in jail is because the charges, unfortunately, had to be dropped against him because of prosecutorial misconduct. They were apparently illegally surveilling him. But he's an American terrorist. He is seeking and has been part of a group for a long time seeking the downfall of the American government. And it turns out that Obama serves on the board with him, that Bill Ayers actually gave campaign contributions to Obama. Obama has spoken at events with him, but that's just a little bit. It gets more serious. It turns out that the board of this group that Obama served on, again, it's called the Woods Fund. Obama was on the fund with this confessed anti-American terrorists, Bill Ayers, they funded an organization, and I'm getting into particulars because it's important. They funded an organization called the Arab American Action Network. Now, what is this Arab American Action Network that received crucial funding from the board of the group that Obama was on? Well, they're extremely anti-Israel. In fact, they're against the establishment of Israel. They've had events where they call Israel's founding a catastrophe. They've hosted art competitions for depicting the catastrophe of the founding of Israel. This fund that Obama funded is directed by a guy named Rashid Khalidi, and he's a name that listeners should really become familiar with because he's going to become more and more famous, I think, in the media. Rashid Khalidi, who is he? And this guy was funded by Obama. He was an operative of the PLO, the Palestine Liberation Organization, in the 1980s and 1970s when it was committing terrorism against America. He speaks fervently against Israel. He's written books against Israel. He invited Ahmadinejad, the Iranian leader, to Colombia. Khalidi and Obama have very strong ties. It turns out that Khalidi has held successful fundraisers for Barack Hussein Obama. Khalidi's group, the Arab American Action Network, has been funded by Obama, by the group that Obama served on. And I just found out, and this is not out yet, that Obama has babysat for the children of Rashid Khalidi, this PLO activist. So it's painting a very dangerous picture of Obama as a guy who's associating with himself in very real, very dangerous ways with apologists for terror and actually with an outright American terrorist.
Well, Aaron, let me ask you this. To give him the benefit of a doubt, can we say that just because Barack Obama is a member of a board, that he necessarily concurs with the opinions of the board, and if the board decides to fund a particular group, that would mean that he himself concurs with that?
Well, maybe not this specific group that was funded by Obama, although Obama and Rashid Khalidi, who's the head of the group, they're very close, and I do think that there's more to it. But just look at a lot of the organizations that is funded by the board that Obama sat on. Look at the whole board. The board is consisting of a domestic terrorist. That says something. It's funding these groups that speak out against Israel. Another group that it's been associated with and that it's given money to is an immigration group that has said that illegal aliens should get driver's license and that illegals should have U.S. tax dollar funded education. The entire group, the entire board that Obama is sitting on, a lot of them are extreme radical leftists, and it turns out that he's hung out with them. He's not just serving on the board with them. He's gone to fundraisers. He's spoken at their events. He spoke at a American Arab Action Network event in the 1990s that was raising money for what they call Palestinian refugees, which basically means Palestinians who want to flood Israel and destroy Israel as a Jewish state. He's spoken at events with Edward Said, who's a very extremist, leftist, anti-Israel guy. This paints a picture that's a little bit different than what the media has been painting the last few months of Barack Obama.
Now, we understand that according to the fund's website, the Woods Fund website, that they state that Mr. Obama was on the board from 1999 to December 11th of 2002. Aaron, have you found any information as to why he discontinued his affiliation with the board, with this fund, with this board?
Yeah, I'm still looking into that, but I think that it was more because of his political career that he realized perhaps that it wasn't politically savvy to be so associated with a fund that is funding groups that are connected to the PLO, a fund where he's serving on the board with a confessed American terrorist who has bombed the U.S. Capitol building. I mean, if you're a politician or you know that you're going to become involved with politics and you're asked to serve on a board, and he wasn't just on the board, he was a paid director, which means that he was more involved than just sitting on the board, you would think that you would make sure that you're serving on an appropriate board. I wouldn't serve on a board with a confessed American terrorist if I was going to run for politics. So there's really, it says something, and I think that perhaps maybe in 2002, and he saw that maybe he had a chance for the White House back then. Maybe he thought in a few years he'd run for president, that it wasn't such a good idea to be associated with this board. But he's been on it for many years, and while he was on it, they funded these very extremist, pro-PLO, extreme immigration reform organizations that don't really bide well for Barack Obama.
Some within the Arab community have stated that they support Mr. Obama because, quote, he is the only candidate who has expressed sympathy for the Palestinian cause. Now, have you found that true as you watch this there in the Mideast?
Oh, yeah, he has.
You've been listening to Crosstalk via satellite and the internet from VCY America. Views expressed may or may not be those of this station.